Of the story, the main lead, Ham Yujin, explains that one day a gate appeared in the world. This phenomenon has been observed globally, and while it doesn't seem to pose immediate harm to people, its cause remains unknown. Despite the growing concerns among citizens, academics are investigating the possibility that the recent appearances of bizarre alien creatures are related to this phenomenon. Han Yujin remarks on their unusual color compared to the gates leading to another world, the dungeons from which monsters emerge in large numbers. If left unattended, these dungeons will reach a supersaturated state and eventually burst, resulting in what is known as a dungeon break, where evil creatures pour out. The simultaneous occurrence of multiple dungeon breaks, known as a dungeon shock, led to millions of injuries and tens of thousands of deaths nationwide. During this time, some people awakened to the strength needed to fight these monsters. These awakened individuals became hunters, a vital occupation in the world. Among these hunters was Han Yujin's cherished brother, Ham Yuyan, who became one of the world's first S-rank hunters. 8 years later in Seoul, South Korea, Yumi, while demonstrating her powers during an interview, recounts her experiences. She mentions that 8 years ago, she was job hunting during the dungeon shock. She attributes her awakening of this skill to grow vines to living in an environmentally friendly house full of fungus and moss. Recently, she used this skill to save people trapped in a collapsing building. Following this event, Yumi became a hunter, raiding dungeons with a small guild. Although the job is somewhat dangerous, it is quite lucrative compared to other jobs, particularly in A-rank dungeons, which are rich in resources like the new material Magic Stone. These stones found in dungeons can sell for hundreds to millions of dollars, allowing strong hunters to become very wealthy, especially S-rank hunters capable of raiding high-rank dungeons. Among these hunters, Han Yujin is particularly famous in South Korea. He awakened his powers as a high school student, grew up poor after losing his parents young, and established the World's Edge Guild, becoming the youngest guild leader. At 25, his personal assets are incredibly vast. Unfortunately, the interview also reveals that Hunter Yui has passed away during a dungeon raid early this morning. Despite being taken to the hospital, she was deemed unable to recover. This serves as a reminder of the dark and dangerous side of the hunter industry, despite the recognition hunters receive. Han Yujin goes to spy in a guild. A member of the guild expresses frustration to their boss, questioning how someone like Yujin could be brought along as part of their party, identifying him as the F-rank hunter, Han Yujin. Yujin, recognizing that he has been identified, humbly asks for a chance, explaining that he needs to enter the dungeon to survive. The member dismisses this, arguing that Yujin's need is not the issue. The guild boss interjects, stating that there is no hunter as affordable as Yujin. The member retorts that Yujin would be there even if the terms weren't favorable, as no one else would allow a useless person like him to join their party. The member then cruelly remarks about how Yujin must be so terrible that his own younger brother abandoned him, mentioning that his brother didn't visit him at the hospital even when he broke his leg. Another person tells him to stop talking about Yujin's brother, but the member continues, referencing an article that suggests even Yujin's brother found him sickening. Infuriated, Yujin grabs the member by the collar, demanding that he shut up and asserting that the issue has nothing to do with his brother. The member, mockingly laughing and questioning Yujin's sanity, retaliates by kicking him to the ground and lifting him with one hand, taunting Yujin about the difference in their strength. He challenges Yujin's audacity as an F-rank to confront a D-rank and suggests that if Yujin feels it's unfair, he should complain to his brother. Another person notes that Yujin always goes crazy whenever someone mentions his brother. At that moment, the guild boss, Lim, arrives and starts healing Yujin, expressing concern about how such an incident could happen right before entering the dungeon. Yujin acknowledges Lim, who explains that he has strengthened Yujin's body, noting that while he can't heal it fully, Yujin should be able to move more easily for a few hours. Lim advises Yujin not to let the words of such people affect him too much, reminding him that as an F-rank, he relies on others for raids and should learn to hold back a little. Yujin, smiling, expresses his gratitude for being allowed into the party despite being an F-rank. Lim responds with a somewhat uncertain acknowledgement. Yujin then apologizes for the trouble caused by the conflict between him and the other member. Lim encourages Yujin, expressing thanks for what he does and acknowledging that Yujin is the only one who recognizes his efforts. Internally, Yujin feels a sense of accomplishment, confirming that he has influenced the subject, guild leader Lim Sukwu, adding him to his list of influenced subjects. Reflecting on his status as an F-rank hunter, also known as the Nurturer, he accepts the negative labels, useless, ominous, a parasite, that others may assign to him. Despite this, he resolves to survive because of his unique skill. Inside the dungeon, the guild fights monsters, kills them, and extracts magic stones from their bodies. They caution each other to stay alert as they can't predict where a monster might appear. One member questions the likelihood of encountering an incredible monster in a D-rank dungeon. Yujin laughs, recalling how he used to tremble in fear at such creatures during the dungeon shock. Lim finds a magic stone and remarks to Kiak on the surprising profitability of the endeavor. Kiak, noting the stone's size, estimates its value in the hundreds even as a D-rank magic stone. While miming, Kiak chides Yujin, calling him F-rank and asking if he is mining properly, reminding him that he must pay 80% of everything he mines as a commission fee. Yujin, taken aback since he thought he could only keep the scraps. Kiak clarifies that the magic stones inside the monsters are their share and instructs Yujin to dig in a specific area if he doesn't want to starve. Yujin internally reflects on the harsh reality that if he gets caught pocketing items, he might be severely punished. He resents being worked to the bone by these bastards, comparing his situation to Cinderella's who lost her parents at a young age. Yujin recalls his past, thinking about how he lost his parents at a young age and was abandoned by his brother. After his awakening, his brother left home, ignoring Yujin's warnings about the dangers. While Yujin was conscripted, his brother gathered hunters and founded the guild World's Edge. As the guild became the strongest in the nation, his brother became someone Yujin couldn't even approach. Feeling left behind, Yujin lamented that if only he had also awakened, his fate might have been different. Desperate, he quit his job, used all his remaining money, and found a broker who promised to awaken him. The broker flattered him, claiming that because he was an S-rank type, he could take care of him, leading Yujin to sign the contract. After enduring numerous humiliations, Yujin eventually awakened. However, he was crucified by the media and a mountain of debt accumulated. Han Yujin's younger brother, Han Yuyan, admonishes him, asking when he will stop causing trouble and relying on his younger brother to handle everything. He mocks Yujin for being an F-rank hunter despite claiming the title of nurturer after his awakening, implying Yujin is incapable of nurturing anyone and only clings to his brother. Yuyan rejects the idea of healing Yujin, stating it's not something he would do for him, and suggests it's convenient that Yujin won't interfere in dungeons anymore. He urges Yujin to live quietly and stop depending on him. Yujin responds with resignation, acknowledging that he deserves to be abandoned. He further reflects on how, after being injured in a dungeon and losing the use of his leg, his younger brother, an accomplished S-rank hunter, didn't support him. Yujin admits that the accusations of him being an incompetent older brother and a parasite clinging to his brother are not entirely unfounded. Despite this, Yujin attributes his survival in the dangerous dungeon environment to his skill, the Nurturer, which allows him to influence those around him, an ability gained after awakening. Yujin reflected on how close he was to his own flesh and blood, whom he had raised himself, compared to those who accepted his friendliness from afar. He explained that by using a specific keyword, he could bring opponents under his influence and provide a small boost to their growth, a basic skill of Nurturer. Though he saw himself more as a survivor, managing to endure alone even as his teammates perished. He emphasized that his survival wasn't due to luck or staying in the rear, rather it was thanks to a hidden skill associated with the Nurturer title, a skill that saved him from every crisis. The reason Yujin alone survived when his teammates were annihilated lay in the hidden skill known as Final Requital, which allowed him to temporarily double and utilize the skills and abilities of those under his influence. For example, if an opponent's speed was 100, Yujin could move it to 100. If they possessed immense strength, he could fight with double that strength. This skill ensured his survival, yet it was also unlucky because it activated when the person under his influence died. Yujin rushed towards his boss, Lim, but by the time he arrived, it was already too late. A monster had struck him down. Turning back, Yujin saw the monster attacking Kiak. Kiak thought to himself, "This is impossible. Why would something like this happen in a D-rank dungeon because of that F-rank guy? It's because of that ominous guy, because we got tangled up with him." The monster was identified as Roktars, the Poison and Cursed Dragon King, a rank 1 dragon known for its invincibility. No one had managed to defeat it until now. Kiak wondered how such a monster could be present in their current situation. Yujin was alarmed upon seeing the Roktars monster and thought it impossible for a rank 1 dragon to be in a D-rank dungeon. The dragon attacked, and as Yujin ran to avoid it, he felt his leg strength increasing. Recognizing the effect of Lim's D-rank skill, body strengthening, which he was experiencing doubly at that moment. Spotting a cave-like place, Yujin thought it would be a good place to hide where the monster couldn't enter quickly, giving him a chance to find a way to escape. He planned to strengthen his arms to block the entrance, but before he could reach it, Roktars attacked him. Injured by the attack, Yujin realized he was no match for the monster, even with the doubled effects of Lim's skills. As memories of Lim flowed into his mind, he recalled how Lim had been trying to heal a comrade and noted that recovery medicines weren't working. Kiak had urged Lim to escape while he bought time, but Kiak was attacked before he could act. Lying there, Yujin despaired because his injured legs prevented him from escaping. Seeing Roktars approaching, he thought this was the end for him. Just then, his brother Yuhan appeared, attacking Roktars and saving Yujin, placing him safely in a secure spot. Yujin asked Yuhun why he was there, to which Yuhun simply told him to stay back. Yujin was worried, knowing the danger of facing all three heads of the dragon simultaneously. Yuhun engaged in battle with Raktors, activating his skill and striking the dragon's head with his sword. Watching his brother, Yujin marveled at Yuhun's speed and the prowess of an S-rank in battle. As Raktors retaliated by spewing poison, Yuhun deftly avoided it and warned Yujin to be careful of the poison, which even recovery medicine couldn't cure and would curse anyone it touched. Yuhun activated his giant shield to protect his brother from Raktors' poison attack. He then struck Raktors, surprising the monster, but his sword weakened. Despite this, Yuhun continued to fight. Yujin, observing this, wondered if his brother's struggle was due to defending him, questioning if it was his presence that hindered Yuhun's ability to fight freely. Raktors attacked again with poison, forcing Yuhun to dodge. Seeing his brother in trouble, Yujin shouted. Yuhun, hearing Yujin, questioned why he had entered the dungeon again despite his broken leg. He scolded Yujin for not knowing his place and for creating trouble, asking when he would stop having to clean up his messes, and reminding him to live peacefully instead of causing such problems. Yujin responded, asking if Yuhun had come just to say that. Yuhun told him to stop talking and go to a corner quickly. Yujin then expressed his wonder about why Yuhun had come, suggesting Yuhun might be worried he would drag him down. Reflecting on his expectations, Yujin realized it was foolish to expect his brother to save him just because they were related. He remarked that Yuhun must be sick of dealing with his troublesome older brother. With this, Yujin picked up a sword and moved to attack Raktors. Seeing this, Yuhun questioned Yujin's actions, telling him he didn't have to come and urging him to run away quickly, asking what he was doing. Yujin struck Raktors with his sword, expressing that saving him again would only make him a burden once more, suggesting it would be easier if he died there in the dungeon. He voiced his frustration, questioning when things went wrong between them and lamenting that everyone at World's Edge Guild would be happier without him. As Raktors prepared to attack Yujin, Yuhun intervened, saving Yujin but losing his own life in the process. Seeing his brother dead, Yujin reflected on how their relationship had deteriorated despite their once strong bond, especially after their parents' death. He wondered aloud, stunned and grief-stricken, why Yuhun would sacrifice himself. With his last strength, Yuhun advised Yujin to wait for another hour until Raktors fell asleep, providing him a chance to escape. Yujin, overwhelmed by the situation, confronted Yuhun's lifeless body, confused and heartbroken. He questioned why Yuhun, who had pushed him away and neglected him, was now smiling in such a dire place. Yuhun handed a gate stone to Yujin, instructing him to use it to escape. Yujin insisted that Yuhun should use it instead and expressed the urgency of addressing Yuhun's wounds. Yuhun, however, indicated that he wouldn't be able to use the gate stone and then passed away. Yujin, unable to comprehend his brother's death, experienced his Nurturer skill activating. The effects of the title Nurturer were triggered, and the additional skill Final Requital transferred Han Yuhun's abilities and skills to Yujin twofold for an hour. Feeling power surging through his body, Yujin, overwhelmed with grief and anger, picked up his brother's weapon. He expressed frustration at having to rely on Yuhun even in his final moments. Facing Raktors, Yujin attacked, noting how slow the monster was compared to his enhanced strength. Surprising Raktors with his newfound power, Yujin felt his brother's memories merging with his own. He recalled Yuhun's thoughts about needing to stay away from Yujin to prevent him from becoming a weakness, even if it meant ruining their relationship. Yuhun instructed his companions to always keep an eye on his brother and to inform him of any developments. He expressed frustration at not being able to prevent his brother from becoming a hunter, noting that hunters aren't protected by the law. He ordered them to take care of the individuals who had influenced his brother, to tell them it was impossible to provide a healer, and to chase Yujin out while only offering financial support. He wanted to appear as though he was helping solely because they were brothers, preferring this over Yujin entering another dungeon. Apologetically, he implored Yujin not to go into another dungeon. While defeating Raktors, Yujin sarcastically questioned who Yuhun thought he was for not discussing things with him. He lamented that he didn't know anything and had only been an obstacle. As the duration of the final requital neared its end, Yujin realized he would die from Raktors' poison gas once time ran out. Feeling there was no reason to keep living, he resigned himself to death. Authority granted Yujin a reward, acknowledging his impossible feat of slaying a dragon alone. He received the legendary title of Dragon Slayer, 10 Gate Stones, 5 rank-granting essences, the Crimson Dragon's Greatsword, and a wishing stone that grants any one wish. Yujin asked if it could grant any wish, expressing a desire to bring his brother back. Authority responded that bringing a dead person back to life was impossible. Frustrated, Yujin questioned the point of the wish and considered what kind of wish could even be granted. He thought about becoming stronger than Yuyan, becoming the strongest hunter, and enjoying a greater honor than he had ever envied. Yujin then requested to turn back time to before his brother died, promising to live a quiet life without entering any more dungeons. He asked for time to be turned back to before he became awakened. Authority confirmed if he wanted to turn back time, to which Yujin agreed. Yujin resolved that even if he ended up regretting his decision, he would ensure such a tragedy never happened again. As time rewound, Yujin found himself questioning his surroundings, realizing he was at Yuyan's guild building. Checking his phone, he confirmed that he had indeed traveled back 5 years. He wondered why he was there specifically, remembering it was the day he went to the awakening broker with a large sum of money, unaware it was a scam. He recalled how he had been dragged back, believing awakening would make him like his brother. Yuhan, filled with anger, approached Yujin and shouted, questioning how many times he had warned him not to do anything that would bring him there. Yujin became emotional upon seeing Yuhan and ran to hug his brother, leaving Yuhan confused. Yujin thought with relief that Yuyan was alive and apologized, admitting his immaturity and expressing remorse for everything. Trying to understand, Yuhan asked if Yujin had caused even more trouble. Yujin reassured him, promising not to cause any more problems and that Yuhan wouldn't have to worry about him anymore. Still puzzled, Yuhan thanked him for saying that. Yujin felt relieved despite the embarrassment of expressing those feelings. He was glad he could prevent the tragic events from happening and resolved to forget everything about being awakened and hunters, intending to live a quiet life. However, a message from authority interrupted his thoughts, registering Han Yujin as an awakened and granting him the legendary titles of Dragon Slayer and Perfect Nurturer. It also activated the additional skill My Kid is the Best, which increased Han Yuyan's growth speed by 100%. Hearing this, Yujin was shocked and exclaimed in disbelief. Yuhan and Yujin were in the kitchen together, where Yuhan was cooking while Yujin sat on a chair. Yuhan reassured Yujin that he could relax and that it wouldn't take long. Yujin responded with a simple okay, then sat quietly, thinking about how, before he had turned back time, they had fought on this day, leading him to run away again. He felt it was nice that they had made up, though he hadn't expected they would be having dinner together. As he sat there, Yujin opened his status window, trying to understand everything. He was surprised to find himself awakened again, noting that his status window was different from before. He pondered the title Dragon Slayer, a proof of having slain a rank 1 dragon solo, and wondered if it was given to him because he had killed Raptors. Despite turning back time, the title remained, which seemed strange to him. He speculated that L rank indicated a legendary status even higher than S rank. While examining his status window and skills, Yujin noticed 4 skills associated with the title, including L rank resistance, which he had never seen before. He interpreted this as being completely resistant to anything below L rank. Among his skills, he noted poison resistance, curse resistance, fear resistance, and Raptor's natural enemy. Yujin, feeling better and stronger after looking at his skills and status, thought about how his abilities would be twice as effective against a dragon type like Raptors. He wondered if he had perhaps become the world's strongest after returning. Yujin's excitement led him to imagine fighting monsters alongside his brother Yuhan, envisioning himself saving his brother and impressing him. However, upon checking his strength, he saw it was still F rank, which left him feeling disappointed. He banged his head on the table, frustrated by his unchanged body and questioning how he was supposed to use all those skills. Yuvan, observing his brother, tried to understand what was happening. Yujin felt dejected, thinking that he was nothing again this time around. Looking at his status screen, he noted that his dexterity and mentality skills had been buffed to E rank. He recognized that mentality up E was similar to previous skills he had before, and the Nurturer title had been upgraded to L rank. He clicked on one of the titles and discovered that it came with 4 skills. Clicking on the skill Final Gratitude L, he thought it was better off not being used. Reading the names of the other skills, he found them quite lame. He read about My Kid is the Best, which increased the growth rate of the subject influenced by a keyword with a skill duration of 3 days. While gathering information about his skills, Yujin thought that the Nurturer title seemed similar to the previous one he had. He pondered about the growth rate, realizing it was twice as fast. This meant Yuyan would get stronger twice as quickly compared to other hunters. Yujin considered combining it with another skill. As Yujin examined the details of My Kid is so great, he thought about how cheering on the subject with the keyword in front of a minimum of 5 intelligent beings would increase the subject's stats and skill effects. He calculated that if he cheered for Yuyan in front of 50 people, Yuyan would be 1.5 times stronger, and in front of 100 people, he'd become twice as strong. Yujin envisioned making his brother Yuyan the greatest, and not just him, but all the hunters in World's Edge. He imagined the guild growing into the world's greatest in a few years, with him as the nurturer. Then he realized that to use these skills, he had to say the keyword, I love you. Yujin was taken aback and thought that if he ran around saying this keyword to everyone, he would surely be arrested. He concluded that despite the skill being amazing, it was completely useless for him. Yujin clicked on the skill named Promising Sprout and pondered that it was the last one. The skill allowed him to check the unawakened's expected awakening rank, and individuals influenced by keywords would awaken with their optimal potential. At that moment, Yuhan brought the food he had prepared. Yuhan asked if the rice was enough for Yujin, to which Yujin enthusiastically responded that it was plenty and thanked him for the meal. Yuhan mentioned that he made it with whatever he had, expressing uncertainty about the taste. While eating, Yujin assured Yuhan that it was delicious. Yuhan was relieved and said he was glad to hear that, offering more if needed. Yujin expressed surprise at Yuhan's cooking skills, and Yuhan explained that his skills improved while trying to survive. Yujin, curious, questioned why Yuhan had to cook given his wealth. Yuhan clarified that it was safer to make his own food, noting that while detox and antidote items were available now, they weren't in the past. Yujin asked Yuhan if there were people who would poison and curse his food. Yuhan explained that since he was a reckless kid running around on his own, he had to face the consequences. Other guilds conspired with large corporations and grew in size, but he didn't belong to any guild and announced he would form his own. Yuhan admitted that joining an average guild might have made things easier. Grabbing Yuhan's face, Yujin demanded to know why Yuhan had never mentioned any of this to him. Yuhan told Yujin not to make such a face, insisting it was the result of his own choices. However, something had bothered Yuhan for a long time. Surprised, Yujin asked what it was. Yuhan revealed that their relationship had suffered because he monitored and interrupted Yujin constantly, avoiding him on purpose to keep him safe from those who might discover him. Yujin expressed that Yuhan should have just told him. Yuhan confessed that he didn't want to burden Yujin and thought Yujin wouldn't understand after a while. Yuhan acknowledged his mistake and thanked Yujin for being considerate even when he had been so stubborn. Yujin told Yuhan that he had been through a lot and expressed his gratitude. In his thoughts, Yujin felt relieved and believed turning back time was the best decision he had ever made. At that moment, Yuhan received a message and while checking his phone mentioned that he needed to leave as he had some tasks to attend to. He reminded Yujin to delete the contact for the awakened broker, and when Yujin agreed, Yuhan added that the broker likely couldn't be reached anymore. Yujin hoped Yuhan hadn't taken drastic measures against the brokers. As Yuhan prepared to leave, Yujin encouraged him to work hard and promised to clean up before he left. Yuhan, puzzled, asked where Yujin thought he was going and clarified that Yujin wasn't leaving anymore and would be living there now. This revelation left Yujin surprised. Yujin exclaimed in confusion, asking what Yuhan meant by saying he couldn't leave. Yuhan explained that it was dangerous outside and that Yujin couldn't go out. Bewildered, Yujin questioned this by pointing out he had been fine that morning. Yuhan clarified that the situation had changed. Now that they were close again, Yujin wasn't as safe as before. Their estrangement had been a protective measure, but now his enemies would target Yujin. Therefore, Yuhan insisted that Yujin had to stay and live there. In a panic, Yujin ran towards the door, questioning Yuhan's sanity. As soon as he opened it, a man stood there with his belongings, confirming his identity and requesting his signature for moving everything. Yujin's possessions were promptly moved into Yuhan's house. Yuhan stated there was nothing left at Yujin's place, declaring Yuhan's home as his new residence. Frustrated, Yujin accused Yuhan of insanity and questioned his actions. Yuhan asked why, reminding Yujin that he had apologized and expressed his love, implying acceptance and permission for these changes. Yujin, still baffled, retorted by questioning how that implied permission. After Yuhan had left, Yujin found himself alone at home, lying on the floor surrounded by his belongings. He began to wonder what was going on with Yuhan, questioning if it was a side effect of the time reversal. Realizing that he couldn't afford to lie around, he decided to pack his essential items into a bag and leave before Yuhan returned, fearing he might be confined forever if he didn't act quickly. When Yujin opened the door to leave, he was confronted by Kim Sang-in, an A-rank hunter from the World's Edge Guild and one of Yuhan's confidants, known for his powerful defensive skills, who was stationed there to keep an eye on him. Yujin politely asked if Kim could move aside, but Kim firmly responded that he could not, explaining that the guild leader had ordered him to prevent Yujin from leaving. Yujin was taken aback by the presence of an A-rank guard and insisted that he was just going for a short walk. Kim reiterated that he could not allow it. Frustrated, Yujin questioned why Kim cared where he went, to which Kim sighed and warned him to return to his room, stating that he would use force if necessary. Hearing this, Yujin felt a wave of anxiety and imagined himself as a small rabbit facing a formidable bear-like figure in Kim. Yujin lay on the floor, feeling as if his entire body was being crushed under the unique pressure and high-ranking hunters exude. He felt like a herbivore standing in front of a predator and tried to resist getting scared. Suddenly, his status window informed him that his fear resistance skill had activated, nullifying the pressure. Surprised, Yujin realized that he was no longer shaking and that in his eyes, Kim Sang-in now appeared as a docile dog. Feeling a surge of confidence, he confronted Kim, reminding him about the law and the concept of personal liberty and suggesting that it was a crime to confine someone like this. He even threatened to call the police. However, Kim remained unaffected by Yujin's words. He grabbed Yujin by the collar and lifted him into the air with one hand, asking if Yujin wanted a beating and if he should be thrown back into his room like this. Yujin quickly apologized. Yujin wondered what the point of having so many skills was if he couldn't take any action. When Kim ordered him to get back in immediately, Yujin desperately considered if there was another way, thinking about the numerous skills he possessed. At that moment, his skill Promising Sprout activated, allowing him to estimate Kim's potential awakening rank. Realizing Kim could become an S rank and that there could be 2 S ranks in the World's Edge Guild, Yujin lamented the missed opportunity and wondered if he could change it with his skills. When Kim questioned what Yujin was doing, the status window indicated that the person had not been influenced yet, but could obtain an S rank skill for the keyword with the My Kit is the best skill. Excited by this revelation, Yujin realized that influencing was the answer and believed that Kim would listen to him if he could successfully influence him. Yujin thought about the keyword he needed to say. He realized he had to tell Kim, "I love you," to activate his skill. Kim, noticing Yujin's strange behavior, asked what he was doing. Yujin tried to use his hand gestures to activate the skill, but ended up making Kim angry, who demanded he stop these disgusting acts and head back inside. Frustrated, Yujin pleaded to change his keyword. Just then, Yuhan returned home and asked Yujin if he had rested well. Yujin, lying on the floor, sarcastically responded that he was dying. Yuhan noticed Yujin hadn't unpacked his belongings yet and suggested that he preferred living there over his old place. Yuhan offered to give Yujin an unused room to move everything over. Yujin, feeling resigned, told Yuhan to do whatever he wanted, considering himself just a prisoner anyway. Yuhan tried to cheer him up, promising to let him out soon. Surprised, Yujin eagerly asked when he could go outside, to which Yuhan urged him to calm down and listen. Yuhan explained that many enemies were wary of the World's Edge Guild, but once they became stronger, no one would dare to act against them recklessly. He assured Yujin that when that time came, he would be able to leave and asked him to wait until the World's Edge Guild became the strongest in the nation. Yujin protested, pointing out that it took several years in the future. Yuhan responded that he should endure it for 1 year, promising to outshine the competition within that time. He added that he would let Yujin out occasionally, but either Xiangyan or he would always accompany him. Yujin, frustrated, likened this to being taken out for a walk. Yuhan clarified that they couldn't let him out too often because dungeon clearing took several days and he couldn't be left with B rank or lower hunters. Yujin pondered if he could do something with his skill, recalling that he used to gather hunter-related information. He realized he knew exactly which hunters would become high-ranking ones and thought he just needed to find them, awaken them, and have them sign a contract to be his escort in exchange for awakening them. By forming his own force this way, he believed Yuhan wouldn't be able to complain, feeling confident that it was possible with his skills and titles. Determined, Yujin announced his intention to find an A-rank hunter. Yuhan, surprised, asked for confirmation. Yujin affirmed, expressing his plan to discover a future AS rank awakened, preferably a child who would be easy to persuade, and then raise them as his exclusive hunter. Yuhan questioned Yujin about his plan to bring back an A-rank hunter. Yujin responded affirmatively, stating that if he could recruit a private A-rank guard, he should be allowed to move around freely. Yuhan then inquired how Yujin planned to recruit them, adding that Yujin must have various methods. Suddenly, Yuhan seemed to realize something and asked Yujin if he had awakened. Yujin, caught off guard, was asked if it was a skill that helped him find high ranks or helped him awaken, and when exactly he had awakened, whether it was after meeting the broker that morning or after meeting Yuhan. Yuhan, growing angry, demanded to know what kind of skill it was and expressed concern about more people targeting Yujin. In his thoughts, Yujin panicked, realizing he couldn't tell the truth. He feared that if he revealed he had obtained an L-rank skill, he would be imprisoned forever. Yujin explained that his skill was just an F rank, a normal one, and it could only distinguish the expected awakened rank from what's strong or not, with the ability to help awaken someone only once a month. Yuhan responded, saying that Yujin wouldn't become a target with such a limited skill since a place to substitute would soon appear. When Yujin asked about the place, Yuhan mentioned that an awakened center was going to be established and that the awakening mechanism had been generally revealed. Yujin realized that this was a time before the center had been established. Yuhan then added that once the center was built, anyone could awaken safely, which would decrease the number of frauds claiming they could awaken others and reduce the number of people trying to get Yujin's skill. Yujin mentioned that it had worked out well, claiming his skill was useless, and there was no need to worry, asking for the opportunity to find an A rank. Yuhan agreed, but noted that it wouldn't be easy to get one and suggested moving Yujin's stuff into the house instead. Yujin enthusiastically agreed and celebrated. In his thoughts, Yujin resolved not to be locked up and planned to return with heaps of A ranks and S ranks, aiming to create his own force and become a bigger guild leader than World's Edge. The next day at the Korean Hunter Association Awakened Registry, people noticed Kim and Yujin whispering about Kim Sang-in being World's Edge's shield and wondering who the new hunter next to him was. They speculated that the person must be really strong to have an A-rank guard and anticipated a new S-rank. Finally, Yujin was registered as an F-rank, awakened. As soon as Yujin was registered as an F-rank, people around started talking, expressing their disappointment that he wasn't an S-rank and wondering why he had acted like one. Yujin, after completing the registration, thought about getting some equipment and checked the money Yuhan had given him, astonished at the large amount, thinking that Ham Yuhan must be insane. Yujin went shopping where a salesperson welcomed him and asked what kind of equipment he wanted to see first. She showed him various items, explaining that they had equipment that increased stats and items that could be worn in regular life. Yujin asked for something simpler. The salesperson showed him the Black Fairy's earrings, which increased magic power by 29, saying it was the simplest accessory they had. Yujin put them on, noting that they were just earrings. He also decided to get the Manticore's leather gloves, which increased stamina by 61 and strength by 20. After buying all the equipment, Yujin thought to himself that with his new purchases, he would be able to have C-rank stats. He realized he would need to use the remaining money for a contract in potions. Kim asked where he had gone, and Yujin, getting into the car, explained that he had gone shopping at the mall and questioned if he couldn't even do that. Kim requested that Yujin inform him when he was going somewhere and suggested heading home if there was nothing else to do. Yujin requested to go to one more place. Yujin thought about the Ice Witch Park Yerim, recalling that she lived around the area. She had mentioned living with a relative who ran a BBQ restaurant after her parents passed away. Yujin noted that among A-ranks, she was exceptional, and if he could recruit her, Yuhan shouldn't have any issues with it. Since she awakened when she was 18, which was 3 years ago, she should currently be a middle schooler. Yujin planned to find her quickly, sign a contract, and regain his freedom. Yujin went to all the BBQ restaurants asking about Park Yerim, but he couldn't find her. He thought to himself that there were more BBQ restaurants than he had anticipated and wondered if he would have to search through all of them. Kim questioned why they were there and suggested that there were good BBQ places near the World's Edge. Yujin explained that he felt a strong urge to eat there. As Yujin was searching, he saw a girl shouting at someone and immediately recognized her as Park Yerim. He thought to himself that he had found her, but before he could say anything, Park Yerim ran past him. Yujin called out for her to stop, but she didn't hear him. He wondered why she was so fast, considering she shouldn't be awakened yet, and thought that with his B-rank item, the light fabric belt, which increased his dexterity by 16, her speed would be nothing to him. Yujin then started running quickly, impressing everyone around with his speed. Yujin reached the girl, Park Yerim, and asked if she was student Park Yerim, urging her to talk for a minute. Park responded by asking if her uncle had sent him and told him to go away, calling him a Jushi and saying she wasn't going back. Yujin, taken aback, questioned her calling him a Jushi and tried to assert that he was still promising, but then shouted for her to be careful about an oncoming car. He managed to save her, and they both fell a great distance due to the car's impact, but Park remained safe. Yujin asked if she was okay and if she was hurt anywhere, lamenting that it would have been better if he had managed to look cool at the end. Park, surprised, asked if Ajushi was a hunter. Yujin, slightly uncomfortable, requested her to get off him. Yujin and Park Yerim were eating in a restaurant, chatting while they enjoyed their meal. Yujin admired the marbling of the beef, exclaiming that it looked amazing and expressing how long it had been since he had eaten Korean beef. He encouraged Yerim to eat more and order as much as she wanted. Yerim, appearing very hungry, agreed and continued eating. Yujin felt happy watching Yerim enjoy her food and thought about how glad he was to be using a corporate card. He then asked if the place was really alright for her, mentioning that she had said her uncle ran a barbecue restaurant. Yerim dismissed her uncle's food, advising Yujin not to go to her uncle's restaurant as it would be a waste of money. Yujin, slightly annoyed, reiterated that he wasn't an ajushi. Yerim then shifted the conversation, asking more seriously why Yujin, the older brother of the World's Edge guild leader, was looking for her. Yujin responded with a casual remark about sensing good vibes from her. Yerim, unimpressed, stated she wasn't interested in cults and thanked him for tea food. Yujin, fabricating a story, told Yerim that he was actually an acquaintance of her parents. He explained that they had helped him when his own parents had passed away, and that he was there to repay their kindness, even though he was late due to being busy with his own life. He expressed his embarrassment over the delay. Yerim responded by saying that it was nothing, mentioning that she knew people who would betray her. Yujin then asked if there was anything he could help her with, leading to his mention of having noticed her extraordinary talent. When Yerim inquired about the talent, Yujin elaborated that it was the talent of an awakened. He explained that he had a skill that allowed him to help others become awakened, and assured her that she could awaken as at least a B rank. He mentioned the support of the World's Edge Guild and his ability to help her become an established hunter. He then proposed becoming her sponsor and asked if she would like to make a contract with him to become a hunter. Upon hearing Yujin's proposal, Yerim pondered the idea of becoming a hunter. Yujin, anticipating her acceptance, thought she would probably take the offer since it was a popular job among youngsters. He decided he needed to put on a more impressive display. Using his equipment, he miraculously sent a contract toward Yerim, asking if she would like to read it. Yerim, startled, stood up and asked Yujin where the contract came from, wondering if it was something called an inventory. Yujin explained that if she awakened, she would have it too. He mentioned that the contract was unique, made from dungeon byproducts, and all she needed to do was officially sign it as Park Yerim. Yerim read the contract and noted the conditions: being contracted to the World's Edge Guild, keeping Han Yujin's skill a secret, and being in charge of protecting Han Yujin for a year. Yujin confirmed the conditions, stating that he needed people who could protect him, as he was just a weak F rank and people kept trying to hurt him. Yerim, with a hint of sarcasm, asked if he wasn't embarrassed that a middle schooler would be protecting him. Yujin explained to Yerim that there was nothing to be embarrassed about, as she would be much stronger than him if she awakened. He then asked if she knew she could become independent if she awakened. Yerim questioned the idea of becoming independent. Yujin assured her that it was possible, and that everyone who awakened was treated equally. Upon hearing this, Yerim decided to sign the contract. Just as she was about to sign, Yujin stopped her, telling her to wait. Yerim asked what the matter was, assuming she just needed to write her name. Yujin clarified that she needed to look through the contract carefully, as it didn't include her conditions. Yerim realized she should read the contract first. Yujin took the opportunity to explain that she needed to make sure the contract was fair, emphasizing that she was still new to this, and since she was underage, she needed a guardian to handle this with her. He pointed out that while becoming independent might seem appealing, it was important to ensure everything was done properly. Yerim, angered by the mention of needing a guardian, expressed her frustration by saying it was useless to have a guardian since she was being exploited by that very person. Yujin, confused, asked her what she meant. Yerim explained that a fair contract was pointless because everyone would likely take advantage of her anyway. Before Yujin could fully comprehend her situation, Yerim's uncle arrived, angrily calling out to her. Yujin turned to look at him. Yerim's uncle, clearly furious, accused her of coming into the restaurant. Yujin stood up, trying to introduce himself as Miss Park, Yerim's acquaintance, but the uncle ignored him and grabbed Yerim's hand, threatening to teach her a lesson. Yujin intervened, trying to calm the uncle down and free Yerim. The uncle, noticing Yujin's unexpected strength, asked who he was and whether he was in a relationship with Yerim. Yujin vehemently denied any such relationship, questioning the uncle's sanity. As Yujin's grip on the uncle's hand tightened, the uncle, feeling Yujin's surprising strength, demanded to be let go and wondered aloud how someone who appeared so weak could be so strong. Yujin silently credited the items for his strength. Yerim's uncle, feeling pain, demanded that Yujin let him go and questioned who Yujin was to interfere. Yujin, starting to understand the situation, looked at Yerim, who had earlier argued with her uncle and ran away. Reflecting on everything, he realized what Yerim meant and asked if she was saying she was better off without a guardian like her uncle. Yerim confirmed, explaining that her uncle was completely evil, having taken all the inheritance left by her parents and not giving her a single cent. She added that even during a storm, he only gave her a cheap umbrella and never replaced it when it broke, leaving her to walk around the plastic bag instead. Hearing this, the people in the restaurant started talking among themselves, expressing their shock and considering it abuse. The uncle, feeling embarrassed, angrily accused Yerim of shaming him and then shoved Yujin, threatening to slap him and approaching Yerim in a rage. Yujin fell to the floor, surprising both the uncle and Yerim. Yerim, concerned, asked if he was okay. Yujin, behaving childishly, loudly accused the uncle of hitting people and claimed he didn't do anything wrong, emphasizing that words should be used instead of fists. He insisted he was just trying to protect the girl and accused the uncle of hitting her, a frail middle schooler, just like he hit him. The uncle, enraged, grabbed Yujin by the collar, but Yujin cleverly caused him to fall. Yujin mocked the uncle, telling him to be careful because the floor was slippery due to spilled soda. The uncle, furious, cursed Yujin, but Yujin, pressing the uncle's face into the sauce, continued to taunt him, asking if he was okay. Yerim watched with enjoyment as Yujin whispered to the uncle that he should be ashamed for taking advantage of a young girl like Yerim, and that he deserved to be torn apart. The uncle panicked, begged to be let go. Yujin warned the uncle against doing anything to Yerim again, but before he could finish, Yerim exclaimed about the sound of the uncle being hit against the table, comparing it to wrestling. Yujin, surprised, denied making the sound and suggested it might be coming from outside, expressing confusion about what was happening. As everyone hears an unknown noise, they begin to speculate about what is happening, questioning if it is an earthquake or if a war has broken out. Suddenly, Ken rushes into the restaurant to save Yujin because a huge, terrifying monster has attacked outside. The people inside panic and start shouting about the danger, urging everyone to run away as a monster has appeared. People scatter in all directions, trying to save their lives. Kim informs Yujin that a dungeon break has occurred nearby. Yujin, shocked, asks about the dungeon break. Kim instructs Yujin to stand back as it is dangerous and assures him that he will handle the situation. Kim then activates his A-rank defense skill, Shield of the Earth, and begins to fight the monster alone. Yujin, observing the massive monster in front of him, ponders why a monster has appeared out of nowhere and questions if there was a dungeon break in this vicinity at this time, noting that he has no memory of such an event. Kim continues to battle a monster and soon realizes that it doesn't have a main body. He urges everyone again to run away quickly as he engages the monster in combat. Yerim and her uncle start running, but Yerim falls. Her uncle looks back but continues running without helping her. The monster targets Yerim on the ground, but Yujin bravely saves her at the last moment. While escaping, he urges her to run towards the evacuation shelter. Yujin, spotting the shelter, mentions that the underground shopping center is probably the evacuation shelter. Yerim confirms this and Yujin tells her to go down quickly. Yerim, worried, asks about Yujin's safety. Yujin explains that he needs to go back because the monster is one he has seen before. He notes that while the monster isn't strong on its own, it's difficult to deal with if not defeated in a single strike. Yujin also remarks that Kim Sang-in is a defense-specialized hunter without wide-area attack skills, making the monster a bad match for him. Determined, Yujin feels he must find a way to handle the situation. Yerim insists on going with Yujin and pleads to be awakened, saying she just needs to join the fight. Yujin responds by denying her request, pointing out that she hasn't even signed the contract. Yerim tries to assure him, arguing that she won't go back on her word and that the situation is dangerous, so he should do it quickly. Yujin explains that he can't let her fight because she's still young and inexperienced, and that he intended to awaken her in a safe environment. He emphasizes that he won't allow a young child to fight alone and tells her to evacuate to safety while the adults handle the situation. Yujin then goes to help Kim fight the monster, thinking about finding a solution. He reminds himself that he was a hunter for more than 5 years and should be able to figure out a way out of this. He calls out to Kim, who, hearing Yujin's voice, asks why he has come back since it's dangerous. Yujin advises Kim to use his shield skill, but Kim protests, saying it's useless since he can't cover the whole town. Yujin insists that the skill is good enough and reveals that he has an idea, leaving Kim astonished. As Kim uses his shield skill, the monster gets trapped in a cage and is unable to move. Seeing this, Kim thinks to himself about how he can use the skill in this manner. Yujin, announcing that he is going, moves towards the monster. He reflects that a defensive barrier functions like a solid wall, and wrapping the monster in it creates a large cage. Yujin recalls the A-rank poison item, Black Poison Fog Orb, he bought at the Hunter Association for emergencies. He considers that if he breaks the orb inside the barrier and closes it, he might be able to kill the monster in one go. Upon looking inside the cage, Yujin finds it empty and wonders where the monster has disappeared to. Just then, the monster grabs Yujin from behind and lifts him into the air. Yujin realizes the monster escaped through the sewers, something he didn't consider since there are no sewers in dungeons. He fears he might die. At that moment, Yerim arrives and successfully frees Yujin from the monster. They both start running away. Yujin, while running, questions why Yerim hasn't evacuated yet, calling her an ordinary citizen. Yerim retorts, calling Yujin a mere F rank, and he responds by stating that he's an adult and awakened. Yerim mocks him, pointing out that no adult asks a middle schooler for protection. Yujin insists that Yerim is still too young. Yerim responds that she knows that already, which is why she feels the need for more power. She felt reassured when Yujin saved her, sensing his genuine intention to protect her, but it also made her angry that she had to rely on others due to her lack of strength. Yerim expresses her desire to become stronger, especially in situations like this, so she wouldn't feel helpless or anxious about needing protection. She wants the power to protect herself and make her own choices. She recalls Yujin telling her that she has the power to become strong, and asks him to teach her how strong she can become. At that moment, Yerim awakens and activates her the freezing skill. The authority announces the registration of the awakened Park Yerim is complete. Yerim uses her skill to freeze the monster on the spot. Proudly, she declares to Yujin that she is an S rank and her skills are amazing. Mentioning freezing Sai, Kim warns her not to say her skills out loud. However, the monster awakens again and attacks Yerim, but she easily defeats it. Boasting about her skill, Yerim claims that this is the power of the S rank and assures that she will handle things from now on. She then asks Kim if she can borrow his weapon for a second, to which Kim agrees. Taking Kim's weapon, Yerim activates her other skill and attacks the monster. Her attack impacts the surrounding environment. Kim protects Yujin from the effects, prompting Yujin to shout for Yerim to be careful and ask if she wants them to be crushed to death. Yerim apologizes, admitting she still can't completely control her strength. Yujin observes Yerim and reflects that she was known as the Ice Witch, but is surprised to see her smile like a child. He comments that he never thought she would awaken so quickly and wonders if she has any wide area attack skills. At that moment, Yuhan arrives, hears Eugen's comment, and assures him that he can handle it. Yuhan then burns the monster to ashes with a single strike. Impressed, Yerim thinks to herself about how Yuhan burned the monster all at once. Seeing his brother, Eugen expresses relief at Yuhan's arrival. Yuhan, angry, scolds Eugen, saying he was worried and hurried over after receiving his call. He admonishes Eugen for roaming outside and insists he should just lock him inside of the house. Eugen tries to explain to his brother, pointing towards Yerim, and says not to worry because he found an S rank who just awakened as Park Yerim. Yerim, seeing Yuhan, nervously greets him. She thinks to herself in awe that he is the World's Edge Guild leader. Eugen mentions that he decided to make a contract with her and asks if Yuhan has any issues with an S rank guard. Yuhan notes that Yerim looks like a minor and asks about her guardian. Nervously, Eugen explains that her guardian is a bit complicated, and he is considering becoming her custodian. Hearing this, Yuhan becomes angrier, questioning Eugen about his intentions of becoming a custodian instead of sponsor. Yerim, curious about the difference, asks if there is one between a sponsor and a custodian. Kin explains to Yerim that a simple sponsor cannot interfere in her matters, so even if she gets into a disadvantageous contract, a sponsor has no right to protect her. However, a custodian is an underage hunter's legal guardian, essentially serving as her parent. Yerim is shocked and tells Eugen that becoming a parent is not necessary and he doesn't have to go that far. Yuhan agrees with her and questions why Eugen needs to protect her. Eugen explains that he can't just leave her be given her uncle's situation, but ultimately the decision is up to Yerim. Yuhan adamantly refuses to accept this, citing safety concerns and the risk of low-ranking custodians being assaulted by high-ranking awakened individuals. He questions how an S rank would obey an F rank and asks Eugen what he would do if Yerim hits him. Yerim angrily assures that she won't because she is a nice girl. Yuhan insists that he would rather become the custodian instead of his brother. Yerim refuses, stating that Eugen promised to do it. Yuhan counters that while she may be fine now, she might suddenly change and harm Hyom. Yerim argues that she wouldn't, and it would be a contract to protect him, suggesting that Yuhan might be the one to do something like that. Eugen tries to mediate, but Yuhan grabs him to take him home, saying there's no reason to listen any further. Yerim holds onto Eugen's hand, demanding that Yuhan stop interfering and let Eugen go. In the struggle, Yerim accidentally pulls Eugen's hand too hard, causing his bone to dislocate and making him cry out in pain. Yuhan asks if Eugen is okay and whether he should call a healer or get a potion. Now angry, Eugen questions if he raised Yuhan to behave this way, reminding him that the matter of choosing a custodian is Yerim's right and asking why he is interfering. He also points out that as the guild leader, Yuhan should be pleased that he brought an S rank to the guild and questions why he should go home when there are responsibilities to handle. He reminds Yuhan that Kim Sidonhan is waiting there alone and tells him to do his job as the guild leader. As Yuhan leaves, he says they will talk about it later and promises to finish up soon. With Yuhan gone, Eugen breathes a sigh of relief. Yerim happily exclaims about how different the World's Edge guild leader is from what she imagined. Still angry, Eugen scolds Yerim and tells her to stay away and sit down. Yerim apologizes, admitting she can't control her strength and asks if his shoulder is okay. Eugen responds that it is just a simple dislocation and then offers to put her shoe on for her since she can't control her strength. While helping Yerim put on her shoe, Eugen comments on how worn out and ill-fitting it is and suggests they buy her new sneakers the next day. Yerim responds playfully, asking if it makes his heart pound. Eugen dismisses it, saying he's just being nosy. Yerim, confused, prompts him, and Eugen explains that he decided to help her because it felt personal to him. He recounts his own difficulties after his parents passed away and how he wished for reliable support at that time, though he admits he probably doesn't seem very reliable. Yerim mumbles that she thinks he is plenty reliable. Surprised, Eugen asks if she really thinks so. Yerim points out that he did ask a middle schooler to protect him but says she will be in his care from now on, calling him custodian Anchusi. Eugen agrees, and though he acknowledges he can't live up to how much her parents loved her, he tells Yerim that he loves her. Hearing this, Yerim laughs and questions what's up with that. Just then, Eugen's status window screen shows that S-Rank awakened Park Yerim has been influenced by the keywords. At that moment, Yerim's uncle arrives, expressing relief at finding her and asking if it's true that she awakened, mentioning the money awakened individuals make. Both Eugen and Yerim think to themselves that they still have this to deal with. Yerim's uncle, looking worried, expresses his concern about not being able to find her earlier and asks if it's true that she awakened. Yerim confirms, stating that she is an S rank. Her uncle, excited at the prospect of wealth, exclaims that they will be piling in money. Yerim informs him that she is moving out and has formed a contract with Eugen. Her uncle reacts with anger, questioning why a 16-year-old would move out, to which Yerim corrects him, saying she is 15. Yujin interjects, mentioning that hunters can become independent from the age of 4, according to special law. The uncle, confused, claims to have never heard of it. Yujin then shows his phone and, with determination, plays a voice recording of the earlier argument with the uncle. This recording makes the uncle panic, and he stammers, asking what the recording is. Yujin explains that he will secure the store's CCTV footage as evidence and that it's already evident the uncle is not a proper guardian, knowing that he even ran away earlier, leaving Yerim behind. The uncle, trying to deny it, is cut off by Yujin, who confronts him about treating Yerim as a source of money and questions how much more he plans to take from her. In frustration, Yerim's uncle demands to know who Yujin thinks is feeding and taking care of her. Yujin dismisses him, warning him to stay away from Yerim. The uncle, trying to grab the phone from Yujin, starts a scuffle, accusing Yujin of planning everything from the start and threatening to sue and expose him. Yerim, witnessing the fight, almost hits her uncle with an umbrella, but Yujin stops her, reminding her that an awakened cannot harm a civilian. Yerim, hearing Yujin's words, stops and then switches to a more innocent tone, questioning how her uncle can keep using violence. Her uncle, confused, asks what she is talking about and insists that Yujin planned everything. Yerim breaks the umbrella, causing her uncle to become frightened. She calmly tells him that he pushed Yujin and fell on his own. Seeing Yerim's change in demeanor, her uncle becomes terrified, thinking that she no longer seems like the middle schooler he knows but more like a wild beast. Yerim's anger triggers Yujin's fear-resistant skill. Noticing Yerim's fury, Yujin realizes the immense pressure, acknowledging to himself that she is truly an S rank. Yerim approaches her uncle, questioning what kind of guardian he's been, mentioning how he never even bought her a decent umbrella. Her anger causes her to break the umbrella, making her uncle fall to the ground in fear. In her rage, Yerim expresses her desire to make him pay for everything he's done, but decides to let it go, deeming him too insignificant to bother with. She warns him to remain trivial to her, and not to pick fights with Yujin or bother her, or else she will not let him be. Yerim then turns to Yujin and asks if she did well, saying she tried to follow his example. Yujin reflects that he should set a better example in front of children. He then considers that with this, Yerim has become a part of the World's Edge family, and he has managed to avoid a life of imprisonment. The next morning, while Yujin is still asleep, Yuhyun bursts into the room angrily. Yujin, startled by Yuhyun's actions, asks what is going on so early in the morning. Yuhyun demands that Yujin hand over what he bought the previous day. Confused, Yujin asks if Yuhyun is referring to the items from the Hunter shopping mall, wondering if he bought too much. Yuhyun clarifies that he is talking about the black poison fog orb. When Yujin hands it over, he questions how Yuhyun found out about the purchase. Becoming emotional, Yuhyun asks if he is really that unreliable and then hugs Yujin tightly. Yuhyun explains that Yujin bought the orb with the resolve to die, planning to use it if he were taken hostage to avoid being exploited, believing he would become Yuhyun's weakness if targeted by enemies. Yujin, internally surprised, thinks to himself that he never considered such a scenario. Yuhyun, still emotional, pleads with Yujin not to use anything like the orb, assuring him that he will come to save him no matter what happens. Yujin, realizing he bought the orb to clear a dungeon secretly, cannot reveal that he possesses an L-rank poison-resistant skill. Instead, he thanks Yuhyun, calling him his little brother, while internally lamenting that the misunderstanding is getting deeper. Yuhyun is leading Yujin towards the training room. Yujin asks if the business with Yerim has been resolved. Yuhyun responds that team leader Seok visited Yerim's house the previous day. Yerim's uncle tried various means to keep her, but it was discovered that he had used millions from Yerim's inheritance for his business. In exchange for not filing a lawsuit against him, he signed a contract agreeing to never come near or contact Yerim again. Additionally, they gave him some money to ensure he wouldn't bother them anymore. Yujin inquires if Yerim really isn't going to file a lawsuit for her family's inheritance. Yuhyun confirms this, explaining that Yerim doesn't want to be involved with her family any longer. Yujin remarks that Yerim will easily earn money from now on. Yuhyun, looking at his phone, mentions that Yerim has probably gotten used to her stats by now, as she was in the training room all night. Since the room is designed to handle an S-rank strength, she can use it without worry. Upon reaching the training room, both brothers are stunned to see the state of the room, which Yerim has left in disarray. Yujin asks if the room was really designed to handle an S-rank strength. Yuhyun affirms this, but they both look around, clearly taken aback by the damage. Yujin looks at the state of the training room and wonders what happened, concerned that something might have happened to Yerim. Then he realizes his body isn't moving because Yerim has activated her skill. As Yerim displays her powers, Yujin begins to feel faint. Seeing this, Yuhyun tells him to get a hold of himself. Yerim, noticing Yujin's condition, becomes alarmed. Yujin acknowledges Yerim's newfound strength. Yerim, worried, asks if Yujin is okay, to which he responds by not recognizing her at first. She reminds him that she is Yurin. Yujin then quickly clarifies that he does remember her but didn't recognize her due to how much she has changed. Yvonne explains that she was styled by a coordinator. Yurin adds that she got styled by World's Edge since she's going to the Hunter Association later. Yujin compliments Yurin, saying she looks like a sports drink model. Yurin mentions that she also needs to keep in shape for commercials and that she filled out Hunter registration documents to submit. She explains that she was testing out her skills and didn't realize Yujin had entered. Yujin then inquires about the nature of her skills. Yurin explains her skills, mentioning first a freezing skill called Freezing Side, which Yujin had seen before. She describes how she can fly and perform short-range teleportation with Hermes' shoes, and how Shadowless Day is a wide-area buff skill with special effects that dramatically increases a designated stat and attributes skill effect while in use. It also absorbs opponents' shadows to make them slower and grants corresponding buffs based on the amount absorbed. Yujin responds by noting that Yurin gets stronger by absorbing the power around her, which must be why the training room is in such disarray. Yurin then mentions another skill, White Course, which draws out information from corpses. Yujin remarks that it's quite an ominous skill, and Yurin agrees, expressing a preference for having received an attack skill instead. Yujin advises that there's no need to reveal all of her skills when registering. He suggests that they should only disclose the buff effect for Shadowless Day and the flying effect for Hermes' shoes while setting their ranks to a certain level. Yurin, impressed by Yujin's advice, remarks on his expertise, calling him an expert. Yujin, smiling, assures her that his knowledge is nothing special and encourages her to control her strength. Yuvan, irritated, interjects, stating that Yujin gained this knowledge by taking care of him and advises keeping a distance. Yurim, angered by Yuvan's interruption, snaps at him for butting in. Yuvan retorts that he wasn't butting in but merely explaining as Yujin is his older brother. Yujin tries to defuse the tension by asking them to stop, while internally wondering if things will be alright and noting the arrival of the World's Edge Guild's car and the appearance of Miss Park Harem, the new B-rank hunter. Yujin, looking at Yurim, praises her for doing well and being cool. Kim, observing the situation, comments that Yurim was sad Yujin didn't accompany her, suggesting he should have. Yujin dismisses the concern, stating that Yurim won't remain sad for long. He believes that once Yurim becomes famous and lives a life of luxury, she won't even think of him, and it's for the best that she will be living well on her own. Yujin reflects on how much has changed. He notes that the cold and haughty Park Yurin he knew in the future has been replaced by a confident, always smiling middle school hunter. Additionally, the break that happened a few days ago didn't occur in the past. Yujin wonders if it's okay for the future he knows to change this much, but concludes that what's good is good. He decides to search through some talents while at the association, despite acknowledging that finding another S rank by luck might be difficult, as high-ranking hunters wouldn't be found in such a place. As Yujin starts running, Kim asks him where he is going. Yujin internally justifies his actions, thinking that he turned back time to save his little brother. If he can change Yurim and Yuhan for the better and find a hidden gem, his skill might have been given to him to make that gem shine. He then grabs someone's hand and scans them, discovering that the person, Yu Myungwoo, is currently ranked F but has the potential for an SS rank optimal starting skill. Myungwoo is unsure of Yujin's identity at first, prompting Yujin to reintroduce himself enthusiastically, mentioning they hadn't seen each other in a long time. Yujin, while understanding Myungwoo's lack of recognition, didn't mind. Mentally, Yujin marveled at Myungwoo's SS rank skill, master of the golden smithy specialized in equipment production. Reflecting on the potential value of such a rare skill, Yujin thought about the financial opportunities it could bring globally. When Yujin asked about Myungwoo's well-being and whether he had also awakened, Myungwoo confirmed he had awakened to an F rank and mentioned the financial incentive of registering as a hunter. Excitedly, Yujin revealed he was also an F rank and proposed they attend basic education together. Myungwoo mentioned that he had only come to collect the subsidy, explaining that paying for basic education would be futile for someone of his F rank status due to financial difficulties. Yujin proposed they attend the education together at his guild, promising to arrange it for free with a word. However, Kim intervened, stating that only guild members could receive the new hunter education. Surprised, Myungwoo asked if Kim knew Guildmaster Kim Seanshin of World's Edge. Yujin confirmed this, revealing that Kim Seanshin was actually his younger brother. This revelation astonished Myungwoo, who remarked on Yujin's sudden brightness. Yujin attributed it to the effects of having power and assured Myungwoo that he would put in a good word at the guild for them to attend together. He also offered Myungwoo the use of his equipment. Myungwoo hesitated, expressing concern about accepting such generosity when he didn't even remember Yujin. Yujin brushed aside his concerns, emphasizing that he simply wanted to help Myungwoo because he deserved it. Yujin then offered Myungwoo warm tea to calm him down, suggesting that he had been through a lot. Myungwoo apologized for his sudden outburst, mentioning it had been a while since someone had treated him so kindly. Yujin empathized with Myungwoo's hardships,